Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Gazpacho pasta salad. That's right, we're doing a pasta salad based on everybody's favorite cold summer soup. Sorry, Vichyssoise. Maybe we'll do you next summer. But anyway, besides being gorgeous, this was wonderfully fresh and vibrant, and most importantly, deliciously different. And to get started, let's take a look at the main ingredients, which not surprisingly include cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes. We will also sneak in a little bit of garlic and some green onion. And as far as the cucumber prep goes, what we'll do is start by peeling half, since I generally don't want the skin on the cucumber I'm going to blend with the rest of the gazpacho ingredients. But I think we also want to add some fresh diced cucumber to the final salad. So once we've reserved that peeled portion for the gazpacho, we will take the unpeeled piece and cut that into like 3 or 4 inch sections. And then we'll simply turn that and cut straight down, making some nice thin slices. And by the way, if you mess up and one's a little too thin, just eat it. In the business, we refer to that as destroying the evidence. But anyway, what we'll do is line up some of those slices and then cut those into strips. And then we'll eventually turn those and slice across, which is going to give us a nice, small, fairly uniform dice. And I said fairly uniform, since we're doing a pasta salad. We don't have to worry about getting these perfectly precise. But anyway, we'll use this to toss into our finished pasta salad later, along with some peppers and onions that we do the same way. And then as far as putting together our gazpacho, we'll go ahead and add our peeled cut up cucumber to a blender, along with our peppers that we've seeded and roughly chopped, followed by some sliced up green onion and peeled garlic, and then the best, most perfect, sweetest tomatoes we can find. Right, these really should come from a garden or a farmer's market, since this is only going to be as good as the tomatoes. And then I decided to add a little bit of fresh basil, but other herbs like cilantro or mint would also work. And then we'll season that up with a generous amount of salt, as well as some freshly ground black pepper. And then to hedge our bets, a little bit of sugar. Oh yeah, all the great deli pasta salads have a little bit of sugar in them. And then we'll finish this up with some red wine vinegar, or some white wine vinegar, or the vinegar of your choice. And then last but not least, we'll finish up with some oil. And I used a blend of half olive oil and half vegetable oil, since all olive oil might be too strong. And then once we have everything in, we'll go ahead and blend this up nice and smooth. And then once that's been accomplished, you will never guess which optional step we can do next. Oh yeah, you got it. I'm going to strain this, which as I just mentioned is definitely optional, but it's probably going to take you less than a minute. And we'll be able to catch the seeds and the tough skins, especially from the peppers. So for me, this step is not optional, but for you it is. But either way, our gorgeous gazpacho is now done, and we can, if we want, give it a taste at this point, and maybe adjust some seasoning. But it should be very close, and it's always better to do our final adjustments once our pasta salad is done and ready to serve. In any event, once our gazpacho is set, we will cook a pound of pasta, which as always we will boil in some generously salted water. And for me, the best choice here is a large elbow macaroni. But really, any open pasta or pasta with a hole in it will work. And as far as the doneness goes, unlike some chefs, I do not like to undercook the pasta for a salad. Right? Some recipes say to undercook it like 2 minutes, because it will soften in the dressing, which is true, but I think you get a weird texture. So if the package says 7 to 9 minutes, I'll usually pull it off somewhere between 6:30 and 7 exactly. And once we do, we're going to want to drain that extremely well. And once that is drained in a strainer, we should take a spoon and give it a good toss to not only jostle free excess liquid, so it drains off, but also to release that steam and heat. Since I do like to let the pasta cool for about 5 minutes before we add it to the gazpacho. So that's what I did. I let it sit for about 5 minutes after that initial stir, and then we'll go ahead and give that one more stir before we transfer it into our gazpacho, which again, in this context is a dressing, and we will take a spoon and give that a mix. And I know it looks like we have way too much gazpacho for this, but you'll see, the holes in our pasta are going to soak in a surprising amount. And believe it or not, after sitting overnight in the fridge, virtually all of our gazpacho will have been absorbed. So that's the good news. And I also gave you the bad news, that we have to wait overnight for this to be ready. So we'll go ahead and wrap that up and pop it in the fridge. And then we'll pull it out the next day and give it a mix. And don't let that dry, weird-looking surface fool you. Even though most of the dressing's soaked in, This should still be nice and wet and saucy. And I should mention, most of the dressing will be absorbed after like 4 or 5 hours. So you don't have to go overnight if you can't. Although I do think it is better. But anyway, that's your call. I mean, you are, after all, the candidate of how long to wait. And speaking of obvious choices, once that's mixed, we're going to give it a taste for seasoning. And I'm happy to report mine was perfect, which means we can finish this up by mixing in some diced vegetables, which for me is going to be a little bit of red onion, some nice sweet red bell pepper, and the cucumber I showed you how to do earlier. And that's it. We'll give that one last mix. And you could, if you want, add something like diced avocado to this, or some more fresh herb if you want. Okay, just because we're calling it a gazpacho pasta salad doesn't mean you can't toss in things you put into your regular pasta salad. But having said that, I did want to keep mine as close to a gazpacho as I could. And that's it. Once mixed, we can transfer that into some kind of nice bowl, or maybe one like this. And then for one last touch, for a little splash of color, I sprinkle a few more diced veggies over the top. And that's it. What we're calling gazpacho pasta salad was ready to enjoy. So I grabbed a spoon and served some up. And as I hope you can see, I think the texture is perfect. All right, not too soupy, but appropriately saucy. And that, my friends, if you like gazpacho, and you're a fan of cold pasta salads, is something you're going to love very, very much. All right, it is very bright and sharp and acidic, but I think that's perfectly balanced with the sweetness from the tomatoes. And even though we put a fair amount of olive oil in this, it's really not rich or heavy at all. And I think a couple words that are going to come to mind when you eat this will be light and refreshing, and also vibrant and flavorful, and maybe clean and bracing. Which reminds me, this is fine alone, but I think where this is really going to shine would be next to some nice rich fatty meat, which I unfortunately didn't have any of. So what I'm going to do is finish this bowl, and then go find myself some rich fatty meat. And what I hope you do is give this amazing gazpacho pasta salad a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.